Good evening, dear educators. Thank you all for joining us today for the workshop session on Equitable Student Success by Super Educator Mila Sengupta. Now, this workshop is brought to you by Teacher.in in collaboration with EdChat India. I would warmly like to welcome all the new teachers who joined us today for the first time. Let me introduce you to the Teacher Network. So Teacher.in is a professional network for K-12 educators, where educators can connect with fellow educators, exchange ideas and resources, attend training, upskilling sessions like these, and upskill yourself and find jobs and high-paying teaching opportunities via the platform. Now you can check out the platform on teacher.in, teacher with an extra R. We call the extra R as revolution. Currently, we're a global community of teachers from 9 different countries. So go ahead, explore the opportunities, and check the platform out. Moving ahead, we have certain set of ground rules that we'd like you to follow so that we have an amazing learning session. Now, I request all the participants who are attending today's session to please follow these guidelines. And the first one being, please keep your mic on mute and your video off so that it saves your bandwidth. And now, because we have a crowd that is limited, I would we would be having a lot of interaction today. So whenever Mila ma'am would give you a cue, you can unmute yourself and let's have a great discussion with regards to the topic as well. In addition to that, there will be a dedicated Q&A at the end of the session where you can ask all your questions. And if you have access to the chat box, so I request all the participants to please post your queries in the chat box and we would take it from there. Now, the most important rule, if you face any technical glitch, we request you to please stay calm and try joining the session again. As you can see on your screen, the session is currently being recorded and we would be sharing the session with you all post, we'd be sharing the recording with you all, post the session by the end of the day. Moving ahead, introducing our super educator of the day, Miss Mila Sengupta. Mila Sengupta is an educator with 30 plus years of experience. She is currently working as a child development associate trainer in Texas, USA. She completed her bachelor's in the University of Calcutta and her master's in Southern University, Louisiana. In addition to this, she is a certified master trainer in Texas Trainer Registry. And she's also published her research work and has presented her work at various reputed conferences as well. Without any further ado, thank you so much, Mila ma'am, for being a part of this session and sharing your expertise with all the educators. I'm super excited. We learned amazing concepts yesterday, and I'm looking forward to having a great learning session today as well. Over to you.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Mila Sengupta. Thank you, Varun, for introducing me, and it is my honor and privilege to be able to come and present here. The second day, any of you who were not at the first session yesterday and missed it, I'm sure, Varun can help you that way. But we had a wonderful session yesterday. I feel so excited to be here today to be able to present our next topic, which is going to be coming soon and shortly. Thank you. Before I start, just want to let you know, is everybody able to hear me and see the screen?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so yesterday we talked about redesigning our education to provide equity in education system in India. Just a little bit of expansion or extension of that. I picked up something because I found there were certain teachers that were interested in a topic that I have included today to be able to talk into a little more details. And I hope that it's going to be of immense help to you, and it's going to be, like kind of helping you to go ahead and implement these tips and strategies, and also make you, more knowledgeable in this area. So our topic today is future of child-centric education in India. So before we started, like Varun said, and because we have a smaller crowd today, I just want to what comes to your mind when we say the word child-centric? There is no right and wrong answer, so please feel free to say something, bring forward where we can all learn from each other. So child-centric, what comes to your mind when we talk or say the word, the phrase child-centric? Anyone? Nobody? Okay, that's not a problem. We're going to come back later. Maybe we need a little bit warm up. So child-centric, when we listen to it, and just as a layman's term, is something that is geared to the needs, to the interests of children. So the future of our education globally, and especially so in India with the new National Education Policy 2020, there's going to be more stress, there's going to be more focus given on a child-centric education, more holistic development of the growth and development of the child, where we're not concentrating on their academics, but we are also concentrating on the development of the whole child as well. So what is new? We all knew when kids come to school, they are the ones that we are there for. We as teachers are serving them actually. Without them, we don't even exist. So what is something innovative, or what is something new that we can see in this national or NEP 2020? What are some of the highlights that we are seeking, that the government of India is embarking on a new journey to just kind of overhaul and kind of put more stress where it's going to be more child-friendly, child interests, and it's going to help children more over overall development. So the first emphasis is not going to be on job creators. Instead, it's going to be on job seekers. So the job seekers as educators and as teachers, or as administrators, or a little bit higher up as government entities or departments, it is our responsibility to equip our children with the knowledge that is not just from the book, the knowledge that they can connect with the world around them, the knowledge that equips them and makes them ready to be productive citizens and get a gainful employment. But on top of that, they also have a positive overall growth and development, as well as a individual or as a human being. Transform education and putting significant thirst on learning about how to think critically and solve problems. Now, these are some of the things I think is a big shift on the education thing, that even when they are learning, or theoretically when they are learning or gaining about knowledge on a subject area, we need to give them the power, or empower them, that how they can think critically, and how we can develop the skills in problem solving, how this knowledge that they have gained can be applied gainfully, to be able to apply when they are out there and they are able to make their independent decision. They're able to be confident enough to be able to face life's challenges, to be creative and multidisciplinary. Excuse me. As you all agree, creativity is something that we as individuals are born with, but we can develop and further it as we go along and gain more knowledge. And these days, we have to be a multitasker, which means we are wearing so many hats to be able to function in a society which is very fast paced. So, in order to be able to do that, we need critical thinking and problem solving skills. We need to be creative, we need to be innovative, and we need to be able to handle different jobs at the same time. How to innovate, adapt, and absorb new material in the novel and changing fields. Like the expansion is a huge expansion in the digital world. The whole world itself has almost come to, our palms. We can hold the whole world technically, not literally. That it so much has been brought to us, and we can now collaborate, we can share, we can exchange information, and it has really opened up a huge horizon in the field of education as well. And we as educators and as teachers, we need to use these tools, use these ways to be able to implement them fruitfully and help the children to be able to gain that knowledge. So make education more experiential, where the kids are learning through experience. So they are using their five senses right from the beginning when they're little toddlers or they're little preschoolers or they go to the play schools. Learning should be more hands-on, which means they're using all their senses to be able to hear, touch, feel, smell, and taste. So when learning becomes hands-on and kids experience it and they are able to experience the process that is involved in getting to a conclusion, it gives them more interest. It encourages them more to be able to go and kind of explore and experiment. So learning would be more experiential, holistic, which is overall growth and development, integrated. It should be very much integrated to be able to be connecting what we are learning and able to be successfully applying it. And it's inquiry driven, that kids should have the choice and the privilege to be able to ask questions like, why is it happening? How do I do it? And we as teachers need to gear also our teaching towards that, where we prompt and ask questions to these children so that they are using, again, their critical thinking skill, their problem solving skills to be able to come to different answers and different conclusions. Discovery oriented. So as they go and explore and experience and experiment, they're able to be finding out new things. So as they're doing, we need to have it more towards discovery oriented learning, and it's learner centered. So I'm sure as a teacher you have heard about teacher directed and child directed. So there should be, ideally, there should be a balance between teacher directed activities or lessons, and also there should be, we should encourage the children to be able to express their interests, so learning should be learner centered, which means we should always give importance to the children, that it's a child centered learning. Discussion based. Yes, there should be options to be able to discuss and talk about it, and discuss about not only what it is but how it is done, because it's very important for us to know why, when, what, and how. Flexible and enjoyable. So there are rules that we need to follow, but at the same token, we as teachers and educators need to have a flexible and open mind, where we need to be keeping our minds open for new ideas, for new innovative thought processes, new perspective that even the younger children come up with. And learning at all times should be fun and enjoyable for all these children. Future of child-centric education in India. So how do we look at it? How this concept can be implemented to make this child-centric education successful in India? New curriculum will include basic arts, crafts, humanities, games, sports, fitness, language, literature, culture, values, science, and mathematics. So it covers a wide range of subject area. But if you look at it, what are some of the developments that it's happening, or we are actually gearing towards giving these kids? So if you are, any of you teachers are early childhood teachers here, or even, as part of your BEd or masters that you have done, you have learned about the theory of child development. So different domains of learning are physical, development, social emotional development, language and vocabulary development, critical thinking and problem solving skills development. And then we have other skills like artistic skills, like music and art and different other areas. Make education more well-rounded, useful, and fulfilling to the learner. So now the concept is that education should be applicable. Education should be effective enough that we can find the connection and we can apply that knowledge to make it better, to excel in our lives learning journey. And it should at the same time be fulfilling. We should be able to, or aim towards having the children to be able to hold their interest and feel motivated, to feel encouraging. Because, as we come later, we're going to find out we still in India, and it's not only India. Like I live in Texas, USA. There's a huge problem of school dropouts. So as we go and these kids drop out for different reasons, they a lot of times they turn to be practicing delinquent behavior, and then that becomes more as a social problem, personal problem, family problem as well, everything combined. Build character, be ethical, rational, compassionate, caring, and prepare for gainful and fulfilling employment. So the NEP 2020 is also gearing towards building character building, giving them lessons on ethical, rational, or compassionate views, giving them information about diversity, giving them information that diversity, we are not what we see just immediately around us. There are other people. They may have different needs. They may come from a different background. They may speak a different language, or, special needs it's not confined only to any kind of physical or mental needs. Even kids who come from economically disadvantaged background or they speak another language, they also fall under the category, or people from tribal areas, they also fall under the category of special needs. By 2040, this is the goal. All learners will have access to the highest quality education, regardless of social or economic background. So this is what has been envisioned, that by 2040, all learners, all kids would have access to the highest quality of education, irrespective of their social or economic background. So that is the goal, the Universal Act of Education that India has proposed 2009, and now it's more of an expansion or extension on this. Some challenges and issues in education. So what are some of the challenges that we face, either professionally at the level of being a teacher, or as an organizational challenge that we see or face, or maybe, we, in our positions that we work at, we also deal with these challenges. The Right of Education Act of 2009 has successfully managed to increase enrollment in the upper primary. So we see that 6th through the 8th grade, there has been a rise in the enrollment of the kids. Between 2009 and 2016, the number of students in upper primary level has increased by 19.4%. So we see a positive growth in that area for the grade levels between 6th grade and 8th grade. But despite these improvements, our education system still faces the challenges. So what are some of the challenges that our system of education faces currently? It's inequality and inequity, that kids, all children do not have access to the same form or means of education. And that could be variables, that could be various reasons why it's happening, and we're going to come to it later. Or there could be there is, there's not a fair system to be able to provide these children with the same fairness and the same thing that maybe another counterpart or another student is receiving. And all these things putting together, there's a significant dropout rate, which is another challenge that we face, keeping those children in school, at least giving them the basic education. And as NEP promotes and proposes, there's going to be more vocational and technical education that's going to be added from a very younger age, as young as sixth grade. And that would make them kids, if these kids can successfully, if we are able to keep them at school and able to at least have them graduate from high school, they will be able to, with that knowledge and that skill, they'll be able to get some gainful employment as well. Access to quality school education is still a dream for most rural populations. That's another issue that we face a challenge with. And I think there's a whole lot that needs to be done in that area, that a lot of the schools in our nation still are located in the rural areas. And we need to be able to put more or extra efforts to be able to meet the needs of this rural population, the vulnerable and the marginalized groups. And a lot of these population may be facing different challenges in life. They may be having social issues, maybe mental issues. They may be having financial issues, employment issues. So all these things, when we put together, it makes them a vulnerable group. And as like the vulnerable group being part of the family, the children are also becoming vulnerable, and they are also facing these kind of things. And you would be a little bit shocked to know that what percentage of domestic violence has been increased worldwide during this pandemic for the last 9 or 10 months. It's shocking to find out that parents being home for different reasons, children being there as well. These children are unfortunately being put through these experiences, which can have a lasting effect on their social emotional growth and development, depending on how severe or how serious it is. It is even more acute in higher education sector. So all these things that we are seeing, again, in my opinion, we are seeing more dropouts in the higher education, which means the high school part. And with the new NEP, we're going to have like preschool or play school through fifth grade, sixth, seventh, eighth. That's going to be like a middle school format. And then the 9th through the 12th grade is going to be considered as high school in the new system, which is more like aligned towards how we have it in the United States. So these are some of the challenges and the issues in the education that we are currently facing. So identifying challenges in education sector that affect student outcome. So what are some of these? How do we identify them? And what does research have helped us to identify? It's very important to know that, because all that may not be applicable at your particular setting. You may be facing certain challenges, but overall, these are the challenges that we are facing. So it's very important for us as educators, as teachers, to be able to identify that. Reserve Bank of India's database on Indian economy, or in abbreviation DBIE, provides that the state level expenditure on India's growing young population in some states have declined, which means what? The central government allocates some money, and the state government is the actual entity who disburses this money. So unfortunately, we have seen from the Reserve Bank India's database that some states there is a decline, especially in the rural areas. There is a decline in or reduction in education expenditure. And when that happens, what happens is kind of like has a domino effect. What happens is it has an overall detrimental effect on the functionality of the school, which actually affects the teachers, the instructions, the overall well-being of the students, and at the end, their overall growth, development, and their academic success. Status of school infrastructure. that, what does that mean? The building itself. How is it accessible? Are there the electricity, bathroom facilities, water connections? Are these available and are these appropriate to meet the needs of the schools? But unfortunately, the data says when I was doing the research that more than third of schools lack access to electricity in the rural areas. That's a significant number in this 21st century. Less than a third have access to computer. Now that I still kind of, can live with it, because still, just having a computer is not enough. You have to have an internet connection, and then the families are already struggling. If we can provide it through the school, that's a different issue, but individually, it's kind of, they have to put their food on the table before they can think about these things. More than a third of schools do not have a playground or a boundary wall. So that actually hampers the safety issue. It brings the safety issue as well. Playground is definitely needed, especially for all age groups, for younger kids, for growth and development, physical growth and development. And not having a boundary wall around the school premises, it actually poses a kind of a safety hazard and a threat also. Students are getting promoted, but few are performing at their grade level. This is another issue we face in US as well. These kids are automatically promoted to the next class or next level. But what the child is lacking in this grade currently, he or she is not catching up. So what is happening, there is a pile up of the lack of knowledge and the lack of ability and the lack of academic success. And when at one point it kind of builds up so much that, and the gap is too wide for to be able to go back and kind of retrieve it. Teachers. 100,000 schools are single teacher schools, underqualified teachers lacking trainings, and there is also a severe problem of teacher absenteeism. While I was doing the research working on this PowerPoint, Bihar has a 46% absenteeism from teachers, and there are various reasons for it. But just think about it. If there's a school with a single teacher, he or she is the only entity, and then he or she is absent for a single day, where does that leave the students? So these are some serious issues. There are teachers that are not, adequately qualified, and then we cannot train them and help them to gain more knowledge at the same time because we are lacking training facility or professional development. So suggestions for positive impact on student outcomes. So all these things that we discussed so far has a significant bearing or significantly affects the student outcome or their academic success or their overall growth and development outcome. Increasing the budget, and how can we do it? So let's see how can we do it. Increasing the budget and expenditure and better infrastructure can certainly bring positive impact on education and future learning of students. Absolutely. If we take care of this and then the infrastructure is safe enough to meet the needs of the children, then that would definitely have a positive effect. Now, there's a huge example in Delhi. For the last few years, Delhi has been able to overhaul their public school systems. And honestly, this is something to be so proud about, that the schools have come up, they have raised their bar, the student expectation is increased at the same time. Students are able to meet those high expectations. And that is one thing I want to let you know. Always keep your expectations high. Encourage the kids, motivate the kids, but always keep your expectations high. Because if we don't challenge them, if we don't give them that, it is not going to be, we're not doing the favor to these children and helping them in their quest for knowledge. Require and provide teachers job-specific trainings to impact student performance. Absolutely. A lot of times, like I said, teachers are not getting the support and they're not getting the adequate knowledge or trainings that would help them to improve the student performance and impact the students' learning. And that is something which is also we are seeing some in some schools, and we need to pay more attention to that. Motivating, encouraging, supporting, and offering individualized guidance and help can significantly increase student performance and also impact dropout rates of students. So, motivation, encouragement, support, these are all important, but combined together, one of the most important thing is offering individualized guidance and support, which means each child comes with their unique abilities and their interests. And what we as teachers need to do is to identify their strengths, and we need to build more upon their strength. But at the same token, we need to find out where this is the child struggling, and we as teachers, we need to provide more help to this child on an individualized level to be able to meet the need. But then there are various factors that actually affect this, because if, say for example, you have 50 children in your classroom with having one single teacher, it is kind of impossible or difficult to be able to meet individual needs in the classroom. So the pupil teacher ratio is also another factor that affects the outcome or the academic success of the students in our school system. So we need to pay attention to that as well. And as I was doing another training, I found out that in secondary level, the pupil teacher ratio is 18.5, but at the primary level, where the ratio should be lower, it is much more. So, when kids are younger, they need more attention, they need more support, they need more guidance. And if the system is not allowing us to do that, then it's a problem. Promoting equity in classroom. So yesterday we talked about equity and equality. It is important to understand the distinction between equity and equality. It is essential to understand it for resolving issues faced by disadvantaged students. So, an educator's end goal should be equity for all students, which means what? Providing equity means, in plain terms, providing resources that fit in the circumstances and meet the student needs. So equity is what we can provide to meet the individual needs of students. And equality is what we provide. We are being fair. We are being non-discriminatory. We are treating every child with respect. We are treating every child that you matter, your opinion matters. You are someone in the classroom where you are not just a number, but you are an entity who is important in this process of learning. Equity should be individual focused and adaptable to suit specific need of individual students. So again, I'm going to reassert about equity, which should be individual focused. You can have, and definitely you need to fulfill the group need as well. But at the same time, I'm sure every year or each year, you find a few students who need a little more extra cajoling, a little more extra help, a little more extra guidance and support. So these are the children that we need to pay extra attention to, because we honestly, every teacher, none of the teachers in this whole wide world, they do not want their student not to be successful. They have all the intent and the well-being in their heart for the best they can do for each and every teacher. So being providing equity means to be able to be adaptable and to be able to meet the individual needs of the children. So thus providing specific support needed for and helping academic success and overall growth of children. But when we are providing this guidance and support, you will be amazed to see. And I always say this, give yourself always a pat on the back for choosing this as a profession, because you are not only making a significant or a positive effect on their academic success, but you are, for some students, you are just there. And they just look up to you. You are there for their, they trust you. They feel comfortable. They will share things with you that they would probably may not share with their own parents. So you play a very significant, important role in all kids' life, but there may be particular children that you may be, playing a whole different role, and these kids are looking up to you. They depend on you. You form a trusting, a bonding relationship with these children. Promoting equity helps children to connect better with each other, and that prompts better academic success. So, when kids get this equity, you will find out when children are having difficulty or faltering, a lot of the times these children may be shy. The children may be afraid of making mistakes. So, if we can get them that self confidence, that assurance, and tell them, yes, you can do it. Look at you. You did it. Awesome. And if we can encourage them in that way and make them see that, yes, I can do it and I can be successful as well. So they, on the other hand, it has a very good effect on their social emotional well-being, and which is one of the most primary area that each and every child needs to have a sound foundation, along with the other domains of development or learning. And when this happens, they are able to connect better with their peers, and this gives them a sort of self-confidence. This gives them a sense of assurance, a sense of goodness in their heart, which prompts them to be also trying to be academically better or more successful. Applying equity to create an inclusive classroom. Now, yesterday, inclusion was a topic that someone had really, have shown some interest about it, and that's why I decided to include this with equity and inclusiveness in the classroom. So, inclusiveness is something. The simple definition is, inclusiveness means to meet the needs of all children. Now, inclusion by the term itself, sometimes it is referred or it is associated with children with special needs, which is true, which is important. We're going to talk in little bit detail because some of you may be having children in your classroom that do have special needs. But at the same token, by itself, the inclusion or inclusiveness means to be able to meet the need of all children under your care or all children that you have in your classroom. So doing that, what the very first thing or some of the important things we need to remember are, each child is unique and has different needs. So offer individualized support and resources. Each and every child comes with some unique abilities and unique interests and unique potential. Create a classroom environment where each child feels safe, being valued and heard. This is very important. Make every child respect the child as an entity. Make them feel welcome so the child feels comfortable. The child feels safe to be able to looking forward to coming to school every day. Maintain a flow of communication with parents to get them involved in their children's learning journey. It's very important because, as research has proven, that parents are the best teachers, are the first teacher for the children. And we cannot do without it, especially in the younger age, but even so when the kids are older as well. If we maintain a flow of communication, a form of open communication with the parents, a lot of times it really helps us to understand a child better, and provide them with the help and get the support from the parents. And it's better if we can, and then we can make an informed decision. Teachers have access to trainings to gain knowledge that help them to resolve any form of conflicts or barriers. So teachers have to have specific trainings that would help them to deal with these issues, and also provide them with the tips that how they can apply that knowledge to be able to solve this barrier or this conflict, or work around these different types of barriers. Include students in diversity and inclusion activities to make all students feel welcome. So we need to find some activities. I mean, it is included in our curriculum, and NEP 2020 is also putting more stress on children being able to learn more about diversity, being able to learn about how to appreciate other people, other cultures, other people speaking differently, looking different, eating different food. And that also includes children with special needs. So these are some of the tips or strategies that we can apply to create an inclusive classroom. Now, talking about inclusion in general term, like I said, it is including everybody to make sure that we are meeting the needs of all children. But here we also have to have some provisions, which is also part of the NEP 2020, is putting more focus on children with special needs or children with disability. So let's talk about how the different forms of disability impacts children. So inclusive education, or in other words, how inclusion or inclusive system of education helps these children who come with some sort of, different kinds of disability. So inclusive education allows children from differing backgrounds to learn, grow, and develop side by side. So research has proven that children who have some form of disability, if they are being in the same classroom with the regular kids, their development and progress is much better than if they're being in a self-contained classroom. Vice versa, children who are around these children with special needs, the regular kids as well, benefit also from being around these children with special needs. So it's a win-win situation. An estimated 93 million children worldwide live with disabilities. Like all children, they too have the right to develop their skills and realize their potential. So that's one thing we need to remember, that do not underestimate the potential of these children. Sometimes these children are so smart, unless they have some severe mental or physical challenges. Some of these kids are brilliant. Some of these kids may be showing their potential in different areas. They may be lacking skills in certain areas, but they are very much apt and very much intelligent and smarter in some other areas. Nearly 50% of the children with disabilities are not in school. So that's another thing. Different aspects kind of stop them or bar them from going. Parents are not sure how their children are going to be treated. They may have had a negative experience somewhere. The children may have felt being discriminated. They may not have been respected. So all these things. Then there is financial situation, educational level of the parents, job situation. All these things combined has prompted, and we see a detrimental fact, that nearly 50% of the children with disabilities are not in school, and hence their progress and their development is somewhat shunted because they're not getting the help and the support that they should be receiving. And this kind of denies them the chance to be productive and reach their potential, because we always say this: catch them young. This is a phrase we always use. If we can get them young, if we can identify their issues early, we are able to help them better. So that is also a thing that we need to put more attention on. And this NEP 2020, it will take some time, but eventually we are going to be able to achieve a whole lot than we are doing now. Benefits of inclusive education, like I just mentioned one point, that it's a win-win situation where all children benefit from this setup. Inclusive education is the most effective way to provide all children an opportunity to develop skills that help them to thrive. So all children, irrespective of their disability or not, they benefit being part of an inclusive classroom. Inclusion means all children, including children with disability, children coming from minority or disadvantaged class, children coming from poverty as well. So we are not going to label a child. It's not right, it's not ethical to be labeling a child because of where they come from, their religion, their caste, or if they have any special needs. I mean, if they are, like there's going to be a lot of stress also on transgender kids in the NEP 2020. So kids coming from different minority background, any child coming into the classroom should be treated fairly and should be treated with respect. An inclusive classroom value the contribution of each student and learn from each other. It is so much true. Like a puzzle, each piece is important to make the whole puzzle. Like that, your classroom is also a big puzzle. So each and every child is a part of the puzzle, and each and every child contributes in their own unique ways to be able to make a significant positive difference. What are some of the strategies that we can use that promote inclusion in schools? At schools, the infrastructure must be modified or refurbished to accommodate students. Now, we got to remember a couple of words here. The infrastructure that we talked about earlier are the building itself, accessibility of the buildings. Are there ramps for if a child is on a wheelchair? Are there provisions there for the child to be able to roll his chair or her chair into the classroom? Are the bathrooms modified or fitted enough to be able to, for these children to be able to use the bathroom, successfully? So these are some of the things that need to be modified or refurbished to accommodate students. So accommodation is a very important word when we deal with students with some special needs. Students should have access to learning materials that are age appropriate and developmentally appropriate. That is also very important. Two things to be remembering, that students should have access to curriculum, materials, activities that are age appropriate and are developmentally appropriate. This is particularly applicable for special need children. Their chronological age and their mental age may not match. So their potential and their capability may be a little bit lower than their age. So we need to be able to identify that and able to meet their needs at their level. Teachers must be trained to support students and meet individual needs. Now, one thing, there are a lot of expectations on us as educators and teachers, but at the same time, if our expectations are not met, we are not able to function successfully at the same time. So if there is not support and guidance and trainings and workshops and all these things are not all done or provided on a regular and consistent basis, then that kind of also affects the learning outcome of the students. And a lot of teachers, they may feel being frustrated, being stressed out. In the United States, there's something like a standard thing. There's a burnout. A first-year teacher gets so much burnt out that he or she just leaves the profession. So what happened was, it's the first year, so it's a little bit difficult. Teacher is nervous. And on top of that, if he or she is not getting the support and the guidance from the administration or from the supervisor, it makes the work very, very difficult. So it's very important to be able to train and support our teachers also if we want to see a positive effect on the children's learning outcome. Teachers receive support and collaborate with each other to maximize learning. That's another thing. If I am a regular teacher, I can always collaborate with a special need teacher, and together we can come up with a plan, and we can come up with strategies that's going to help all children. So that all word is very, very significant and important that we have to keep in mind. Our goal as teachers is to be able to meet the needs of all the children under our care. So the forms of disability, some of the forms of disability that we see in our classrooms or in inclusive classrooms are learning disability. So these learning disabled kids, we should not think that they are not intelligent or they are not motivated. It's only that their brain, it is different way they process the information. And just because they process it differently, they have a difficulty sometimes understanding or comprehending, and they have problems in reading, writing, math, reasoning, listening, and speaking. So learning disability is a form of disability that there are tips and strategies that can be applied to help this child. And some kids, they do overcome, not completely, but they learn the tips. They learn how to work around it and become successful. My own son-in-law, he was identified as learning disabled when he was in middle school, and at this point, he is doing wonderful in his professional and personal career. So, learning disability is not a complete hindrance. Visual impairment. Sometimes children may have visual issues, that they may have problems seeing. So you may have to provide them with some instruments, or provide them with, big letters, books with big letters and posters and stuff like that, to be able to help them. Hearing impairment is another issue that we sometimes see in our children. They may have, hearing aids that may help them, but sometimes you may need to talk to them more closely. And sometimes, because of the lack of hearing, some kids may not be speaking. So these kids may be, to communication, maybe through the form of sign language. Then comes the autism spectrum. And autism spectrum is something that we are seeing more so in our children. And there are a lot of factors which has honestly not been proven scientifically that what causes it. But it's a complex developmental disorder that affects children by disrupting their ability to communicate and interact socially. So there are different forms of autism. Some are non-verbal, they are unable to speak. But then there are some that are high functional autistic kids that are able to speak, and they are very smart and do very well in certain areas, but they also have lack that social skills, and they may have a little bit difficulty to communicate with social interaction. And they may also show repetitive interest. They may do one activity over and over and over and over. They just love to do that. I mean, if you tell them not to do it, they may get very upset. Unusual attachment to objects or routines, like they will just do something like a little robot. It's everything, the steps have to be similar, every single thing have to be same. If anything is done not the same way, they get very upset. Then we're going to talk about attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, which is ADHD. The acronym is ADHD. And this is a form of deficit. There are a lot of behavior therapy and stuff like that. I don't believe in, again, I'm not a medical professional. It's a personal belief that I don't think children should be medicated, but there are play therapies, there are different kinds of behavioral therapies that children can go through. And me particularly, as part of a Head Start program, which is a government program run for disadvantaged kids, and I was the director there for 4 years, and I have seen firsthand how this can very positively help the children who have attention deficit, either ADD, which is attention deficit disorder, or attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. So the distinction between the two, there some may have an attention issue, they may not be able to concentrate, but some may have an attention issue combined with hyperactivity. They are very, very hyper. They are unable to sit down or do something. They always have to be moving around, and sometimes they are harmful to themselves as well. Promoting inclusive education. So this is something that I found from the UNICEF website, and it focuses on four key areas. So what are the four key things? It's the advocacy. So UNICEF does a lot of, as you know, this is, they do a lot of work in um, underdeveloped countries primarily. And advocacy is through policymakers and general public. So they work hand in hand with the government, the system, the educational departments and all that, and the general public to be able to advocate for inclusion in different settings. And there are schools run by under the leadership of UNICEF, funding and guidance in certain parts in Africa and all that. There are schools. Awareness through research workshop in partnership with governments. So creating an awareness for inclusion, creating an awareness in the community, in the society, in the state, in the country itself, for that it is important to meet the needs of these special needs children as well. Capacity building by training teachers and administrators and communities through technical assistance to governments. So there are funding available where UNICEF provides funding to train the teachers and the administrators and the community itself. And this usually UNICEF works through the governments of each country. Implementation support by monitoring and evaluating in partner countries to close the implementation gap between policy and practice. That is also a very key thing to me, that whenever there is a policy or a law or a rule being implemented, there needs to be a check and balance to see if it's really being implemented fairly, if it's being effective, what is working and what is not working. So UNICEF also monitors that if there is a gap between policy and practice. This is very important for any system, because if we are not evaluating what we are doing, if we are not able to identify what is working and what is not working, it doesn't really become effective. What is the role of a teacher in inclusion? The role of a teacher is to create a welcoming environment where every child is valued, every child feels respected, every child feels important, and every child feels, yes, I come here and my teacher loves me. I love to play with my friends. And this is something if we can give each and every child as a teacher, I think half of your job is done, and the rest of it is going to fall in its place, because this is one challenging job to share that bond, to create that relationship with each and every child is very, very important. A supportive classroom where children feel comfortable. If they're facing an issue, facing a challenge, they know the teacher is going to be there for them and with them. This is very important. Trained and compassionate teachers who are accepting and understanding and having a positive attitude. There are certain days, I'm going to agree with you, that we may be facing personal challenges, personal issues, family issues, health issues. There are a lot of issues that we face individually as well. And honestly speaking, no one can say that it doesn't really affect sometimes our professional life, because we are all human. It is no guilt admitting it. And if we have that, it is always good and it is always positive to accept it. But at the same time, we should be careful about how we present ourselves, because I have learned it in a hard way. One day a child had done something. He was a 4-year-old child, and I was very upset with him, but I didn't say it. But I think my facial expression and my body language really gave that message to this little child. So I said, when you are ready to talk to me, we're going to talk about, how you did this, and why do you think this was good to do? So in a span of 1 or 2 minutes, he said, Miss Mila, are you mad with me? And I said, no, I'm not mad with you. And he said, I know you are. So at that moment, I realized when I said, no, I'm not mad with you, actually, I did. I could not hide my feeling. And that little 4-year-old, he could read me like an open book. And that experience, that was way back in 1999. And I still remember it today. I shifted from teaching to more into administration and training. But that was a life's lesson that I will never, ever, ever forget. So it's very important how we present ourselves. Modify lessons and accommodate to help children become productive. Like I said, If you have to change a little bit, if you have to accommodate, say, for example, a child has a little difficulty holding a pencil, you can put a gripper on it. If you don't have it, maybe tie some ribbon on it or tie some yarn on it so that he gets a better grip to hold the pencil. So that is called accommodation. Teachers present lesson in various forms to accommodate needs of students with special needs, visual, auditory, because as we all know, we all have different styles of learning. Some like to hear it, some like to touch, some like to see it, some like to, is a combination of two or three. So there are different modes and ways of learning. And same way, kids learn the same way. So how can we accommodate and help the children or all children to learn? And we can meet their needs by doing visual, auditory, kinesthetic, using technology. For special need kids, use larger prints, headphones, manipulative materials to provide tactile and hands-on experience. A lot of these children, and that includes all children, especially at young age, they like to touch, they like to feel, especially children coming from with special needs. They always like to touch, they always like to feel something. So if they get upset, if you have something fluffy, if you have something furry like a small pillow or a little like a little teddy bear, a soft, cushy teddy bear, have it handy, because a lot of times it helps these children to calm down. They will just touch it and they will feel it, and it helps them to calm their nerves down. Have effective forms of assessment in place to monitor and offer specific support. So, assessment is also a big part of successful inclusion for all children, like I want to mention, because if we do not assess it effectively, and that may be different forms of assessment, it doesn't have to be confined only to tests and taking exams. It could be formal, like taking tests. It could be informal, like observations, documentation. That's for your personal thing. If you observe something, just take a quick 2 minute or 1 minute and just jot it down on a little exercise book that you can refer to later on, and kind of find a way to meet the need of that particular child. Or if you see something that you think you have to find more information on, and able to help the child, do it, because it takes not much time, but it actually helps you to meet the individual needs of children. Okay, with that, I hope you have liked my presentation and gathered information that you will be able to carry on with you and apply to your classroom. We're going to do, it's going to take like 2 minutes. We're going to do a little, it's not a question answer session, but it's more like an interactive thing. I am going to read it and I'm going to ask a question. Mrs. Varma is a veteran teacher with several years of experience. In the past, for some school year, she had a few students with disabilities in her classroom. But they were not in her classroom for the major part of the day. They either got pulled out for special instructional time or joined her class for art, music, lunch, or maybe brief period of academics. For the upcoming school year, the new school year, her principal informed her that she will be having 2 students with disability in her class for all day. So, as usual, that is human nature. It happens to all of us. There's nothing wrong with it. Mrs. Varma feels a bit nervous, but also feels confident to meet this challenge and support the children. She feels a little nervous that these 2 kids are going to stay with her all through the day. She would be, she would have to meet the needs of these individual kids. But at the same time, she geared herself up that, yes, I'm going to accept this challenge and I will do it, whatever it takes, to be able to help these children. Now, my question to you is this. After listening to all the information that I have presented to you today, just give me 1, 2, 3, any amount, because this is a smaller group. What would be some strategies that you would use to make the 2 children develop, grow, and feel successful? Okay. Can you all hear me? Hello?
Yes, ma'am, you are audible.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am, you're audible. Ma'am, first of all, it will all depend upon the kind of disability the child is facing. I mean, that is the first thing that we'll have to look for, because two different, I mean, children may not have the same disability. That is first thing, because the kind of, the treatment that the child may require may differ. Like in my class, I had a child many years back. The child was in class 7. He was an autistic child, and his attention span also was very less, and he would start running around the building, and we would have really tough time handling him, because initially when I joined the school, I was very worried that he may fall because it was on the second floor. So then we made him, I befriended 2 or 3 children around him, made him comfortable with that group, and that group would make sure that when he's going to washroom, they are there with him. When he's having lunch, they are there with him. So it's very important we know what kind of disability we're talking about. Like we may have a child with two different kind of disabilities. We also had a child who would get angry very fast. So I preferred putting him with a child who talked less and who's very quiet, who's very accommodating. So I think the treatment varies on the kind of child it is.
You know what? I want to tell you something. First of all, I want to thank you because on purpose, I did not add any form of disability there. But that was such a wonderful, intelligent and question and answer, because that's the first thing that I was looking for. That how do I identify if I don't know what form of disability this particular two children have? So that is awesome. I want to give you a huge kudo high five to you. Okay. So being that said, wonderful answer.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
And now I'm going to come to, so say for example, one may have a, like you said, picking, one may have an anger issue, one may have a autism issue. So what are some of the things, like you have said, wonderful strategies that you pair them up with another kid, or you have them attached to another group where, like you said, inclusion helps so much that they learn from each other, and that kind of helped your situation and help the kids in the long run. So what are some of the other strategies? I would love to hear from some other teachers here today. What's something else that you would apply? And that could be personal, that could be professional, that could be specific, that could be anything. Anyone? Nobody? There's no right and wrong answer. So please don't think that it's going to be a mistake. All answers, like, it's always good to, no question is a dumb question. In the same way, I always tell kids, I say, you can always tell an answer. There's no right and wrong answer, honestly. Every answer is important. And every answer, we learn something. So if you don't have anything else to add to it, I would again thank you so much. I don't know your name, if you don't mind. What's your name, ma'am?
I'm Sangeeta, ma'am. Sangeeta
Okay.
Mishra.
Hi, Sangeeta. Thank you for participating and coming up with wonderful answers. And absolutely. So there are some of these strategies that we can apply again for all these kids, making them feel important, making them feel respected, making them being part of the group, because all kids like them also want to be belonging. As human beings, we want to be belonging to a group. So it's very important to do that. And then specific, and they may come with, like we say, individual education plan. We call that over there IEPs. So I'm sure there are some forms here also said where they come with what are their specific requirements they need, what are the specific issues that they have challenges, and then accordingly, again, I would say you need some of the other important things is your curriculum, your lessons, how you accommodate your lessons to meet the needs of these children. Teacher professional development of teachers for teachers and training are very, very important. Support from your management is also very, very, very important, because that if it's not there, or if it's not fruitfully there, it can create a lot of issues. And honestly, like, we are all humans. We look for that support, and also you need to have a good networking system with your fellow co-workers, because as we not only learn from each other, we can there be for each other, we can collaborate, we can share, and we also come up with tips and strategies to meet the needs of these children. So these are some of the general things that I would say that you can do, and you can help these children. And always think that even though they have some special needs, but these are individual children with unique potential and unique capabilities, that we are there holding their hands to help them to reach their potential and help them in their life's journey. So with that, I conclude my presentation today, and I hope that I have been able to get across information that's going to be helpful to you. And now, Varun, can we go for the Q&A session if there is any more questions?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
ma'am.
But
I have a question actually, ma'am.
yeah, okay.
My question is that I have a student in my class who is not able to pay attention, in the sense even a small little noise, actually, the child is not
Uh-huh.
able to concentrate. So is
Mm-hmm.
it an attention deficiency issue? There is one question. And
Um,
regarding the second thing, ma'am, that you said that the building and the when we're talking about inclusive education, I mean, as soon as they implement NEP, it's
mm-hmm.
very important for the government to take a decision about the infrastructure of the school. The school also
Absolutely.
should be, very accommodating to all kinds of disabilities, because we have come across situations where children are not very comfortable with the kind of buildings that are made. Actually, they're made for the normal children. So when the
Yes.
decision is taken for inclusive, right from washrooms, as you suggested, to the ramps, which are very mandatory in the school, all these things have to be changed, translated.
Yes.
Only then the policy should be made. The policy should
Yes.
not come before, and changes are required. The required requisite changes are made. I feel like that, ma'am.
Absolutely. You have really hit it hard, because just implementing the policy but not having the things in place, actually it acts more frustration, it builds up more frustration. And like you said about this particular kid who gets very easily distracted because of any kind of noise, has this child been identified what his difficulties are yet? Because that is another challenge you and me as a teacher we face, because a lot of times, if we try to address this with parents, and this is my personal experience, couple of times, that parents are the first stage, a lot of parents, not all, a lot of parents are in denial.
True.
They will not
Yeah,
admit the
there is
fact.
a denial. That is why I asked the question.
Yes,
Because I
it
asked a
is.
similar question, that is the child having a similar issue at home? The child, I mean, the parents denied it. But even if small, even if small pencil movement, the child says, I'm getting disturbed. So I just
Yes.
wanted to know that this is a kind of attention deficiency. How do we identify this?
I think, see, like, this is what I always tell, because when you approach a parent, and then again, you have to follow your school rules and policies, I would say, if I were in your place, I would address this, because first and foremost, I would request you to make some observations and have some specific documentation. That's going to be for you, just informal documentation, that what are some of the things that trigger, and if the noise of a pencil triggers his kind of like his attention, there could be other things. So if you just maybe follow him for a week, Monday through Friday or Monday through Saturday, then I
Okay, ma'am.
would say, before addressing it to the parents, address this, discuss this with your principal or your school, whoever is, your supervisor, if you have a team lead. I think these entities or individuals should be brought into place, and then your assertion should be more powerful if you go to them with your documents, and then together you could come up with a plan. where I come from, when we see this, the school itself has their own, the school district has their own team of special need teachers and all. And they would observe the child, and accordingly then they would we would address the parents, and we would talk to the parents along with my supervisor. We together sit down and address this issue very, very gently, because it's a very, I would say, a very emotional issue for a parent to hear this about their child and to admit the fact that my child may have a special need. So, when I start a conversation, I always say, Madam, ma'am, I am so lucky, and I think I feel so good to have your child in my classroom, and, talk about some good things about the child. Like we say, there's a formula called a sandwich formula. You start with the good, put the bad in the middle, and then you end up with another good. And then you slowly bring up the issue about that, ma'am, we have been noticing this in the classroom, and we are seeing this, and we can and we just want to bring it to your attention, and then find out if there could be that the child could be referred to a doctor. Can you give me 1 second, please? Give me 1 second. I'm really, excuse me. Okay, thank you so much for your patience. I would say, if you then address it in a way with documentation, because one thing for any of these children, the earlier you get them, the better it's for the child. So you have to have, talk to the parent in a way that the child could be referred to a specialist. The child could have an evaluation done, because if that is not done and it's taking longer time, it's actually going to be affecting the child's progress. And the late you do it, the later it's going to be. Like I said, you always say that catch them young. So catch them young is also identifying when they're young and trying to give them the support and the help, because this child may need some professional help. And you as a teacher by yourself would not be able to handle it. Sometimes you need to involve parents, you need to involve other entities that would be able to help. This assessment is very important. Need to identify by a professional what is actually there, what does this child need. That is very important. And I know it's a very kind of like a sticky situation, because it's very difficult to address this. And even now, after all these years, if I have to talk to a parent, I feel nervous. I'll be honest with you. I feel nervous. I feel a little bit skeptical. I don't know how this parent is going to react. I have had a child who was autistic, and this child doesn't say anything, just speaks, like makes audible noise. And they're extremely rich, two professional parents. There was a nanny that kept the child at home. And after observing him for over 2 weeks, this child is not talking. So I talked to the nanny, because she stays with him all day. And I said, how do you communicate with him? And she said, oh, he doesn't speak, he doesn't talk. So I just kind of use my hands and, show him and point him. And then he kind of like understands part of it. So at that point, I decided I need to call the parent and talk to the parent. So I used to own a Montessori school. So this was there. So I called the parent, both are lawyers, highly educated parents. And when I kind of gently brought it forth, the mother said, I don't think so. He speaks very well at home. This morning he came to my bedroom and he said, good morning, mama. So, and this is coming from an educated set of parents. So sometimes it's very, very, very difficult. And when parents are in denial, it gets more difficult. But then we have to do something. We have to intervene, and we have to do what's best for the child. So if we have to get some professional involved in this, who can professionally present it to the parent, so be it. So in back in States, we have a system where we can do it. If me as a teacher, I address these issues, and to my school district, or mostly, our system, very few kids go to private schools. It's all public school system. Then we have a group of people in place that would come, professionally trained people that would come and observe this child and assess this child, and they would take it over from there and address it to the parent and talk to the parent. Have I been able to help you in anything?
Yeah, sure, ma'am. Thank you so much. Thanks a
Thank
lot.
you. You're so welcome. Any
Thank
other
you.
question? Hi.
Yes, ma'am. Please go ahead.
No, I'm just asking. Anybody has any more questions?
Hello.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Hi, this is Chandni.
Hi.
Yeah, ma'am. So my question was just like you mentioned, in most cases, parents are in denial and they
Yes.
begin to normalize the situation their child is in, just
Yes.
like you mentioned, like the parent said that the child enters my room and talks to me. So I had a similar situation too, where the parent was like, the child is supposed to be hyper. He's a child. How do you expect him to sit in one place and listen to you? They kind of started normalizing his nature even after I pointed out the things I noticed in the classroom. So how do you deal with that?
Like I said, you see there. If it's a severe form of it, like
Hmm.
I had two children with hyperactivity disorder who would, in a wink of an eye, would climb up on the table. From the table itself, this child would be standing, and we have cubbies, which means like shelving units, where it's pretty heavy. Kids put their backpacks, and then put their, in the winter time, they hang their jackets, and then he would stand up on that table, and he would start holding this, what do you call it, this shelf, and a little bit rocking it back and forth. So at that point, what happens, like, and it happens so instantly, that you need to go there and physically you have to get the child down, because he may fall and get hurt. So this particular mother, when I was observing this, and this particular mother, when I talked to her, and it appeared to me that she doesn't pay any attention, because this child, I asked him, I said, Joshua, what do you do when you go home? And he says, I play video games. So I said, what do you do after you finish playing video games? He says, I go to the next level. This is a 4-year-old. So he's very honest. Absolutely. All he does when he goes home is watching TV and playing video games. So what mother did was the most shocking thing. A couple of days after, mother brings in a medication, and she tells me, oh, my doctor just prescribed this medication. And I said, I just cannot accept the medication, because we have policies and rules that I have to have the doctor send me a note, and he has to fill out a form allowing me, permitting me to provide this medicine every day after lunch, because the child stayed all day. So at that point, I had no recourse, but I was shocked to see this mother, without going for any other option, straight away went to medication. And this medication was, it kind of makes them kids act like a zombie. But what my hands were tied. You can do anything, because you can go beyond, when parents take a decision like that. So what I started doing was, when he was getting little bit, the moment the teacher realized he was getting hyper, and because it was a preschool, not like a regular classroom setting, so the teacher would just call me, and I would go to the classroom, and I would just stay very calm. And that is one other thing I want to tell you: always stay calm. Do not keep on repeating yourself. Just say it once or say it twice, because these kids kind of like live on your anxiety, live on your stress, and they're going to trigger and push your buttons farther to make you more aggravated and more frustrated. I can tell you, guarantee you that. So I used to bring him, and I would say, Joshua, let's go and read a book. which one would you like to read? So I used to keep a little basket with different kinds of books in my office room. Another thing I used to do, like, those ice cream sticks, and I had different colored ice cream sticks that I used to keep in a little box. And I would have him count. Like, first I started with having him to classify according to colors, like how many colors are here. Put all the reds together, put all the blues together. And then as he mastered that skill, I started giving him a little more challenge, and I used a big dice like we used when we play Ludo, but it's a bigger one. And he would roll, and I taught him how to count, and he would do additions with me. And I want to tell you something. Over the period of 3 to 4 months, when I gave him this individual attention, and he was actually looking forward to spending time with me, because whenever he did that, any kind of things that he knew he was not supposed to do, he would ask his teacher, can I go to see Miss Mila? Can I go see her? So that was one of his way out, but that kind of calmed him down though. So it depends on the setting, it depends on the circumstances, depends on the type of disability. And if you have like 30, 40 kids in your classroom, how are you able to pay more attention? The only way you may be able to do it is to bring him sitting closer to you, so that he's not distracted, or he is a little bit away from his friends. But again, I don't believe in also isolating him, because that kind of deals, brings in a form of inadequacy in him, that, oh, I'm not good. And then the other kids may start kind of avoiding him or her as well, which is not good at all, not good at all. So if situations like this, I am not sure, because, I don't stay here, that if there is a system in place, there should be a system in place where these things should be addressed, and some sort of professional help should be needed to be able to address this to the parents. Because as teachers, and again, none of us claim to be professionals, we do not come with professional knowledge about determine or diagnose anything. Yeah, we cannot. So I think the NEP also addresses special needs, but like one of you said, that not putting the things in place but jumping into implement it is almost like cutting the tree and putting water at the roots. To me, but it's a huge challenge. I think all of us need to work and be part of this whole plan. But as far as this is concerned, this is becoming more and more an issue in all classrooms all over the world. Trust me. When I go train teachers, I come across teachers who have kids who are 3 year old. They are aggressive. They have so much anger. They will hit people, hit kids without any provocation. And when you ask them, why did you do it? I don't know. This is their answer. So they have learned the skill how to avoid. If you answer me, I don't know, what else can you do? So and there are various factors. Children as young as 2, 3, or even newborns are spending more time away from the family. Now we have a nucleus family. Mom and dad are both working. So there are a lot of issues. The child may be doing it for getting attention, because the child is not able to get the attention he or she is seeking from the parents. Mom comes home after the end of the day. The family is in, they need the money. What can you say? Because women are more qualified, there are more professionals working, so that's a necessity. But then we are also seeing the flip side of it, where children are behaving the way they're behaving in classrooms as young as 2 or 3. That is a fact. It is true.
Ma'am, there's a question from Miss Anamika. Miss Anamika, can you unmute yourself and you can ask the question?
Yeah, thank you so much. Miss, I would like to ask the same question you already answered. Actually,
Okay.
I too have two different, these students, those who are come with different disabilities. One is with ADHD, and where is the other who is having very poor motor skills, as well as the visual ability is very less. So, especially with child, I need to sit along and I need to explain everything, because he couldn't write anything. especially during the assessment times and all. And though I have a special educator who provide us the IPs and all, but really the problem what I am facing is like when a normal classroom goes on, where I'm having 30 other students also along with
Exactly.
me.
Exactly.
So, yeah, I myself feel like I am not doing justification with these two. They need
You are
proper
so right.
attention. So
Yes.
I mean, I sometimes it feels so awkward. Like I myself is not able to, console myself that how can I provide them the justification, because a child with the ADHD one, he is very bright. Once I sit
Yeah,
with
they
him,
are usually very smart.
he's
Very
very
smart.
bright. Once I'm sit
Yes.
with him, and though I am a computer teacher, so if I
Mhm.
ask any questions related to Windows and all, if I have just given some examples, so he just answers like the within a fraction of seconds. So they need special attentions. But I don't know why this rule has been changed, because earlier they used to go to the special educator and she used
Uh-huh.
to, but now I think they told us now we have to teach them in the normal classrooms only.
Right.
So a- any such practice means, if you can share where means I can do something,
I
or
what I would do, share your email or give it to
sure.
Varun. I will definitely look for something, and I would love to share with you. Love to share with you.
Thank you so
Because
much.
like I said, teaching is
Mhm.
one profession where I think we need networking more than anything else.
Exactly.
We need to
Exactly.
be there for each other. We need to support each other, because if we do not do so, we're going to just get burnt out, and slowly and consistently going through this kind of stress, it affects you physically, it affects you mentally, and
Exactly.
then it hampers your family life, and it's like I say, it's like a domino effect.
Exactly, exactly. Because this I am sharing when I was going to school. Now, this due to this remote learning, the
Hmm.
conditions are, because they never they don't have all the time someone sitting next to them. So, like a
Hmm.
thousand times we speak the name, they will not turn on their cameras, they will not unmute
Hmm.
themselves, they participate. Whereas in physical classroom, these things were pretty possible, because I used to make
Right.
them sit with me or with their fellow mates, so at least they should feel the part of the group and they
Hmm.
participate in the conversation. But now it's very
It's hard, this remote thing, especially with kids with special needs. Their coordination is not like regular children, and even regular children. I have a goddaughter. She's like my own child. She has a 5-year-old. Honestly speaking, they live in Gurgaon, and all the projects and things that this kid has to do on a regular basis through the week, Lord have mercy. It's totally, I don't know. I mean, how even a normal child can hold that attention span and sit there for 45 minutes to an hour, communicating with the teacher over the computer. It's difficult, because as they say, the kids attention span is actually their age. So if you have
exactly.
a 2-year-old, it's 2 minutes. If you have a 5-year-old, it's 5 minutes. And children always listen to the last part of your conversation. That's why
Exactly.
we always say, never ever end your conversation with a negative word, with a no. Any
Within.
form of negativity, that's going to stick to his brain, and he's going to do just that.
I
You
will
know.
definitely share my ID with Varun sir, and I would love to.
Sure. I would love to. I would love to share with
Have
you.
this
Like I
class.
said, any one of you, if you want any particular information, um, I would love to share with you.
Thank you
I
so
believe in sharing. I believe in learning from each other. And again, I want to thank you all for being part of this, 2 days in a row. And I want to thank Varun one more time for giving me this opportunity, because I'm stuck here for 1 year. So I'm leaving for United States next month on the 16th. But I am so lucky and so fortunate, and I thank God that I have been able to do this. I am also working with another company that I'm doing this webinar, and it's really keeping me busy, and it's so fulfilling. And meeting so many of you, because I left India 40 years back. 1981, I left India right after I was married. And honestly, I come every year, but I never had the opportunity to get to know people, get to know the teachers, and get to know what's going on in India. This is my golden opportunity to be able to do this. and to be able to know and meet people and network with people and learn from each other. So I do not mind sharing my email, and Varun, I'm giving you the permission. You can share my email with them if you want to keep in contact, and I would love to help you and provide you with additional information.
Absolutely, absolutely, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Varun sir. I mean, I personally wants to thank you. I mean, due to this COVID, I was unable to get in regular touch with the group. But personally, you messaged me, and due to that, I was able to attend yesterday's session as well as today's. And the session are such a fruitful one. I can't express in words. So once again, I'm thanking you a lot. Thank you so much.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. It is so good. It makes my day.
Thank, thanks a lot, ma'am. So, dear teachers, I before we make a move, I request all the teachers to please fill in the feedback form. So, this is the only way in which we can get in touch with you. So, because we have not collected some of your emails earlier. So I request all the teachers to please fill the feedback form, and we would be mailing you all the details with regards to today's session. The assignment that needs to be completed in order to gain a certificate, and other relevant details like Mila ma'am had mentioned. So the description is on the chat box. The link is on the chat box. So and in addition to that, it's also being seen on the screen. So I request all the teachers to please fill in the feedback form before you make a move. And this would be the only way in which you can reach out to you. So this is needed from our side. And uh, before we move ahead, I just have a couple of more instructions. So if you're on Twitter or Facebook or LinkedIn, you can follow Mila ma'am on her handle, which is Mila space Sengupta, and you can reach out to her. In addition to that, like ma'am mentioned, I would be sharing her contact details, her email address with you with today's mailer that will be sent before EOD. So and the link of the session as well, in case if you missed any part of it, would be shared. So there's one thing, if you are so in order to be eligible for certification, we give an assignment, and this assignment needs to be uploaded on the teacher portal. So I'd be sharing all the details to you via mail, and I can only do that if you are able to fill the feedback form. So it's very, very crucial. So to please fill the feedback form. And Mila ma'am, it's been an absolute pleasure, working with you over the last couple of weeks in facilitating this session, and the other session that we had conducted on international job opportunities. So thank you so much for catering your time and sharing your valuable wisdom with the educator community. It's just because of teachers like you who are super inspired to share their knowledge with the educators. That is how this entire community would become even more fruitful over time. So, I'm super glad that, you set the precedent for that. And we are really hoping that, we can take this forward and collaborate once again as we move ahead. So thank you once again, Mila ma'am, for facilitating this wonderful session. I would say it has been extremely delightful to learn more all about various aspects that you mentioned. So once again, thank you so much, dear teachers. I request you to if you're on Twitter, please share your thoughts and tag us. You can tag Chat India and Teach Tweets and Mila ma'am, and and let us know on this topic on, and the other next webinar and the next workshop. All the details would be shared via mail. So there's one more webinar that we have this week. So we conduct two things every week. We conduct a webinar, and we conduct a workshop. Workshop is for the weekends and webinar is for the weekdays. So I would be updating all this information via mail. And until then, we'll keep in touch. So thank you so much for joining us. I understand it's a weekend, and means a lot that you have joined us today for the session. So thank you once again, and hope you have a wonderful week ahead. Thank you.